Today marks 5 years since a faction of the Turkish military attempted to overthrow the government. The deadly coup saw hundreds killed and thousands injured, and while it was swiftly brought under control, millions of people are still suffering the consequences.
An exhibition outside the Turkish consulate in Sydney marking the anniversary of the night the country was turned upside down. 5 years on since the failed military coup, it's still impacting some members of the community here in Australia. One of them is this dual Australian-Turkish citizen who, for safety reasons, has chosen to remain anonymous.
They have said that if I go to Turkey, I will be jailed. I'm on a blacklist and I will be jailed if I go back to Turkey.
He says his involvement with the Gülen movement has made him a target of the Turkish government.
My assets can be seized by the government through my involvement in the FETÖ network, as they call it.
Fethullah Gülen is a US-based Turkish Islamic scholar, preacher and philosopher. His movement, known as Hizmet or Service, runs schools across the globe, 15 of which are here in Australia. But as Gülen's power base grew, he was increasingly regarded as a threat by the Erdogan government, which he accused of corruption.
There's quite a strong rivalry between the supporters of the government and this Islamic movement for positions within the government.
On the 16th of July 2016, a section of the Turkish military launched a coordinated operation aimed at toppling the government and taking down President Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
This was it was an assault on democracy and the people's will.
251 lives were lost that night and more than 2,000 people were injured. But half a decade later, what remains unclear is who was responsible.
There's a difficulty with actually working out who did the coup and for what reasons.
The Turkish government says Fethullah Gülen and his followers were behind it.
Terror structure, FETÖ, we call it FETÖ, is behind this coup attempt. They have a secret agenda. They portrayed themselves as a charity movement, but they did all types of illegal activities.
Followers of the Gülen movement say the government is using the coup as a pretense to crack down on its critics, both at home and abroad.
That coup has not benefited anyone in Turkey except Erdogan and his regime. It has not benefited any of the civil society movements.
In the aftermath of the attempted coup, more than 500,000 people were arrested. Of those, some 100,000 were held in custody awaiting trial, while more than 2,500 were handed a life sentence. It's also believed that approximately 150,000 people were purged from public service jobs, while others, like Mithat Unlu, were left stateless in their own country.
It was extremely hard for me because you have to leave everything behind you, your friends, your job, even your language, everything.
Mithat has since been resettled in Australia, but dreams of one day returning to his homeland.
It is really hard because we don't know. We are in an unknown situation now. Maybe it will take 5 years, 10 years, maybe 15 years, we don't know.
The Australian-Turkish Advocacy Alliance described the coup attempt as an atrocity and says appeal systems are in place in line with Turkey's obligations under international law for those convicted. Masilia Aili, SBS World News.